on the day after. And you know how I feel about it. I was stunned. I know many people aren't. And I guess I'll start with somewhat of a positive, even though I don't want to. I appreciate the fact that we trust in Leon Rose. He's been as big a part as Tibbs, as Jalen Brunson in turning this Knicks franchise around. He has made tons of moves as an executive with this franchise that has pulled it from the depths of where it has lingered for over 2 decades. And I appreciate the job he's done, and I appreciate the quick acting, quick decision that he made with Coach Thibodeau. But I couldn't disagree more with it. I honestly don't understand why this decision was made, whether it's Johnny Bryant, obviously, who's interviewing with the Phoenix Suns, and you want to jump out and get him, or whatever the case may be. We'll get into the different reasons and who's pulling the strings behind the whole thing. But here's the bottom line. As I just said, and I know we've gone over this a lot, the New York Knicks reached their first Eastern Conference Finals in 25 years. The New York Knicks were a disaster until Tibbs took the reins. The New York Knicks were a joke, a laughingstock, an afterthought in this city as really the one team that can unite us all. It all united us into forgetting about them for 20 plus years. And this guy took over the reins and built this franchise up. And then those are the obvious things, right? And I know that's not good enough, and that doesn't get him a lifetime contract. But let's just get into this season. You are talking about a coach that led the Knicks to back-to-back 50-win seasons with 2 completely different teams. They went out and changed this team. They brought in Karl Anthony Towns. They brought in Mikal Bridges. They changed who they are. They made themselves less of a defensive-minded team. They gave a defensive coach a less defensive-minded team. They gave him a team that suits him less, right? And that's probably part of the reason they've ended up firing him, because I think Karl Anthony Towns and the ability to get the most out of him is probably what's behind this decision. But I am so sick and tired of hearing some of the stuff I've been hearing all day long about the failures of this coach. I am tired of it, because let's be honest, I understand you'd like to play the bench more. I understand that he's part of the problem and the adapting to the NBA and the minutes police we all have, and he plays too many guys and you need to have this bench. The bench stinks. Let's just flat out say it now. I'm sorry. It's not like he's left a bunch of great players sitting on the bench all year long. This team was traded for Karl Anthony Towns at the very last second, and the team didn't have a great bench. We have seen Mitchell Robinson play. We have seen Deuce McBride play. And by the way, how'd they play? How'd he develop Deuce McBride into a player that satisfied this team? The bench isn't very good. Could he play it more? Sure. Would you like to develop it more? Sure. I do think he was going to have to go into the season and change who he was a little bit. But this narrative that somehow this team would have beaten the Indiana Pacers or went on to win an NBA championship if only Tibbs played the bench, if only Landry Shamet played more, this team might have been able to accomplish the ultimate goal. And because of that, he needs to go. It makes me nuts. Because this roster, let's be honest, what couldn't they do? They couldn't beat the Boston Celtics. And let's be honest, if they won this series, everyone would say they couldn't beat the Oklahoma City Thunder. That's what we all felt about the talent of this team. They are talented. I think they're more talented than the Indiana Pacers. Are they more talented than the Boston Celtics? Because we can go over, I hear it, and I've been hearing it all day. Well, how many 3 years in a row he's lost to teams that he was favored against? He was favored against the Indiana Pacers, unable to. Was he favored against the Boston Celtics when he was down 20 points in game number 1? Was he? Was he favored against the defending champs when he pulled off the biggest upset? Arguably this city, forget the franchise, arguably the biggest upset this city has seen this side of beating the undefeated Patriots in the last 50 years. Getting a team that's been a doormat to everyone who walks into the Mecca of basketball. For the last 25 years, he has brought them up to respectability with a different group, given a brand new team this year, and because he couldn't get to the NBA Finals after beating the defending champions who nobody thought they could beat, because he lost this series to the Indiana Pacers, he must go after 1 year with Karl Anthony Towns, after 1 year with Mikal Bridges, after 1 year with this unit. He won 51 games with it, and that's with Jalen Brunson missing how much, a month and a half with an ankle injury? He wins 51 games with this team, back-to-back years of 50-win seasons. He goes on and beats the defending champs to send the franchise to an area and a round and an Eastern Conference Finals that they haven't seen in 25 years. But because Landry Shamet and Tyler Kolek didn't play enough, he needs to go. I'm sorry. I don't understand it to save my life. And when you talk about, like, if Spoelstra, and that's the other thing too, right? We talk about, oh, this move wouldn't have been made if they didn't have someone in mind. Well, I respect the hell out of Johnny Bryant. Did a great job when he was with the Knicks. He's obviously done a great job, Cavs, and clearly he is now one of the favorites to go take the Suns job. I think he is a good coach, but he is an assistant coach. We are talking about finding someone to take a team over the hump, to take a team into the NBA Finals, to win a championship with this group after we're killing Karl Anthony Towns, after we're killing Josh Hart, after we're killing Mikal Bridges, after we're killing OG Anunoby, those players that we're all frustrated with and don't think played well enough to win the series, that group has to get to an NBA championship, and we're going to rely on a guy who's done a really nice job as an assistant and could be favored out in Phoenix. That's who needs to step in to make sure that this group can get to their first NBA championship since 1973. That's the move that has to happen. I've been critical of Tibbs. I think we've all been critical of Tibbs. Fairly so. Fairly so. And I know everyone now wants to throw out the platitudes of, well, thank you, Coach Tibbs. Thank you for changing the franchise. Thank you for coming here and bringing respectability. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Even the people who want his ass out the door, thank you very much. Thank you for what? Thank you for what? What are we thanking him for? He's been a woeful underachiever. No? I'm confused. Either Leon Rose put together an incredible team that Tibbs has done a bad job with, or maybe, just maybe, Tibbs has had a huge role in this team becoming this good. And I get it. I get it. I've talked about it. Karl Anthony Towns, who to me, this is what this is all about. And if we are going to believe that it's a Leon Rose decision, and I know, listen, I can't tell you it's not done by the owner. I listened to Ian Begley today on The Fan. He made it pretty clear that he believes this doesn't happen unless Leon Rose is on board. That Leon Rose made the decision. Obviously, the owner has to sign off on it too. Leon Rose has to sign off on it. And I do appreciate that I feel the same way about Leon Rose that I do about Tibbs. He's been an incredible executive. He's done an incredible job with this team. And he's closer to the team than I am. And I respect the bold nature of this move in some ways. But I do think it is very short-sighted. And I am very concerned that you should be careful what you wish for. Because we've seen Tibbs fired before under these same guidelines. We've seen Tibbs fired before because he couldn't take the team over the hump. And then I watched those franchises tank after he left. I watched the Chicago Bulls become a shell of themselves. After all the talk about he couldn't get that team over the hump, the Bulls faded without him. We do not have an example of, Buck Showalter gets thrown around. You have the example of taking the Yankees with Joe Torre to win a championship. You have an example of what happens to the Arizona Diamondbacks the year after he left. There is no example with Tibbs other than the idea, maybe, just maybe, he made a team a hell of a lot better and took them to places that other coaches couldn't. But whether it's Leon Rose or whether it's the owner, I don't know. And we'll have some fun with it because Mad Dog's saying one thing and Mike's saying another. I have no idea. I don't know. What I will say is this owner has been less inclined since hiring Phil Jackson to being as involved as he was before. Since he hired Phil Jackson, it's really felt like he has allowed these guys to run it to the point where eventually Phil had to go, and now Leon Rose has been able to do his own thing. I think it's very, very ironic that when it's a questionable decision, and when you can point to as many things as I'll point to the rest of this show all the way to 5 a.m., that all of a sudden now it's a move that has the fingerprints of this owner all over it. I think that's it's a bit on the nose that suddenly when it's a real questionable decision that half the fan base or whatever is going to disagree with and a lot of the talking heads are going to have a tough time understanding, now all of a sudden this one has the fingerprints of the owner all over it. But I will say that this clearly is, for me, I'm going to make the assumption it is Leon Rose. And if it's Leon Rose, this is pretty much the assumption that you can forget Giannis. You could probably forget KD. This is about Karl Anthony Towns and how him and Brunson have got to be the two stars of this team. And they have got to get the best out of Karl Anthony Towns. And to me, I can't think of another reason. I can't muster up another excuse to fire this coach other than they firmly believe that Karl Anthony Towns will never thrive under Tibbs. And it's not the worst reasoning, but it's the only one I can think of. And I'd like to think that the coach who took them here would be able to adjust. If you brought in maybe an offensive-minded coach to help him, if you did some things to help make him understand things do need to change, that you'd be willing to do it because he brought in a culture and a winning environment this team hasn't had in forever. And then there's another thing I've been hearing, and CP the franchise has done a great job, right? Ian Begley was all over it. CP the franchise, he has Knicks TV. He's been talking about this for a while with Tibbs and how it was up in the air. He's been hearing some things. He's been on the fan a lot with Evan and Tiki. He does a great job. I listened to his podcast. They do a great job. And he came out today and talked about there was some news that in the exit meetings, a lot of the players were complaining that they don't know their roles. That the idea that the team didn't clarify roles and Tibbs didn't clarify roles, and that was part of the problem with the team. I'm not saying that that's not information that CP the franchise was given. I'm saying that's a bunch of horse crap. I'm saying the idea that you can have a 50-win season, that you can be the 3 seed in the Eastern Conference, that you can go on and beat the defending champion Boston Celtics and get to an Eastern Conference Finals when nobody knows their roles is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. The idea that these guys didn't know what was what and they were unsure of what was asked of them is absolute nonsense. That is an insult thrown at Tibbs that is just absolutely ridiculous. That this guy didn't clarify roles? He did. Part of the problem is he clarified the roles to the bench. Stay there. You don't think OG Anunoby knew he was a 3-and-D guy, that he's expected to defend some of the better players on the team? You think Mikal Bridges came over here and struggled because he didn't know what he was asked to do? He was unsure. It certainly wasn't to miss as many threes as he did. I'm baffled by the decision. The amount of success, and I know it's about winning championships, and they didn't. And I know I thought they could have and should have beaten the Indiana Pacers, and they didn't. I also thought the players played terribly. And the idea that I take calls about Tyler Kolek and we're going to fire a coach. Like, honestly, you are going to fire a coach who changed the entire franchise, who won you 50 games back to back, who just took you places you haven't been in 25 years and upset the defense. Like, I don't think we make enough of it because we're talking about how he lost to a team that he was favored against with home court advantage against the Pacers. And we're not acknowledging that he went on to beat the Boston Celtics when nobody told him he could. That is a huge, massive upset. It's the biggest win outside of the championships the franchise has ever had. You can make that argument. It's the biggest win other than winning the 2 NBA finals that the team has ever had. The fan base shut down 7th Avenue. We have had a feeling about this team and this franchise we haven't had since the 90s. The 90s. And we're going to let him go because he didn't run right enough? And he didn't run Shaman enough? And we don't think that he can, after only 1 year, and Cat became a starting 5 member of the Eastern Conference All-Star team in that year, that we don't think in a second year he could get more? That he's not earned that? I have a real tough problem understanding why this coach wasn't given the opportunity to fix some of the issues. And there were issues. I don't understand why this coach has got this moniker of can't get you over the hump where there's no evidence other than he didn't win. And by the way, whoever they hire, most likely, never won a damn thing in the NBA.